In this series of educational videos from FXTM, we'll be evaluating some of the most important concepts that investors need to understand in order to be successful out there in the foreign exchange. Starting with trade planning, where we'll evaluate position sizing, money management, and applying stop losses to protect against bad trades. We'll also be looking at risk assessment. So how do we use technical concepts like support and resistance, candlestick patterns, or other price patterns to identify when a position that is on is becoming more risky or potentially more conservative, or when a new entry would be a little bit more conservative or potentially a little bit more risky. Finally, we'll be looking at trend analysis, where we'll be stepping out beyond technical analysis to include fundamental factors like interest rate differentials, growth expectations, and of course safe haven buying during periods of geopolitical uncertainty. When we put these together, our goal will be to make sure that investors are not only identifying buying or selling opportunities, but that they're making the most of those opportunities so they can prioritize those that are the most conservative or the most likely to play out in their favor. In this episode of the FXTM educational series, we're going to be talking about risk control, which is really just about that. It's about exercising control over those things that we have some influence over as traders. So we're going to start out with position sizing, and then we'll talk about correlation and diversification, and we'll touch on some technical concepts as well, like support and resistance, which we've covered in greater detail in other videos here in the FXTM educational series. So starting with position sizing, our primary objective is to make sure that one trade compared to another is proportional, so that a loss here doesn't overwhelm other winners within the trading career or the portfolio overall. So let's say, for example, that a trader has decided that they have $10,000 in their account. Now, one way to approach this to be really consistent would be to do it on a percentage basis, so a percentage of the account basis. So we'll say hypothetically again that this trader's decided that they're willing to put 2.5% of their total account at risk in any given trade. Now, the reason why we're doing this as a percentage is that way it will allow them to be consistent as their account goes up or down in value. So if we take 2.5% and we times that by our $10,000 account value, or the current value at $10,000, then that means that that trader is willing to put $250 at risk in any given trade. Now, what does that really mean? And here's where a stop loss can actually really help us to identify trades and the amount of risk that we're exposed to within those, and to make sure that the trades are proportional to one another. So let me give you an example. Let's say that a trader has decided to get long the euro. And they're going to do that, just hypothetically, at 1.12146. Now, at the same time, they decided, all right, as far as risk goes, I have a stop loss in this hypothetical trader at 1.11646, which that means that basically this trader, if they have a stop loss at that level, then they have a theoretical risk of about 50 pips or 500 points. Now, let's further assume that this trader is going to be targeting a mini lot position, so each of these pips is worth $1. So basically what they have at risk here, if we were to translate this, is they have $50 at risk per mini lot. Now, at this point, our calculation becomes really easy, because all the trader has to do is they have to take their maximum amount of risk, or their position size, which is $250, and they're going to then divide that by their $50 per mini lot that they've essentially planned as a theoretical loss amount, which means that they are essentially going to be trading a position size of 5 lots. Now, the reason why they would want to do this is that way their positions from one trade to the next are proportional to the amount of risk that they have planned in the trade. What this means is that if the stop loss were larger, let's say to accommodate a pair that was a lot riskier or more volatile at the time, well, then the position size is going to shrink because the stop loss is larger. By the same token, of course, if the trade is a little less risky, maybe the position is not moving as much, is not as volatile, then the stop loss may be much more narrow, so therefore the trade might be a bit larger proportional to the other one. So this is one of those ways that a trader can stay consistent, and they can make their trade size proportional not only to the amount of risk that they have or that they perceive in each individual trade, but also proportional to their account size.